Hi, I'm Allison from Special Fork. When I have a little extra time and I make sugar cookies, I like to make royal icing and decorate them and make great colorful cookies that I can put out for my friends and family. I've got some cookies cooling in the back, and so right now I'm going to make some royal icing and put a bunch of different colors together to decorate with. And royal icing is a pretty simple thing to make. 3 ingredients. We have water, confectioner's sugar, and meringue powder. You can make it with raw egg whites, but I like to use meringue powder instead because then I don't worry about anybody having to eat raw egg. And meringue powder is a pretty easy thing to find at a specialty baking store or a lot of gourmet shops. And so if you ask around, it's pretty easy to find. So simple recipe, we're just going to put the meringue powder into our mixer along with the water. And then get it ready to go. I'll start it off a little bit on low, and then I'm going to basically increase the speed to high and get it to where stiff peaks have formed. We're almost there, but I'm just going to scrape the sides of the bowl just to make sure that I have everything incorporated. And you might want to do this a couple times depending on your mixing bowl. I'm going to stop the mixer now and just take and test to see to make sure, yep, I have exactly what I want, some stiff peaks. So I'm going to gently try not to spill confectioner's sugar on my countertop, which undoubtedly will happen, and add it to the bowl ever so slightly here. And then so that I don't end up covered in confectioner's sugar, I'm going to start very slow on the slowest speed to begin incorporating. And eventually I'm going to raise the speed up and let it beat for several minutes until it gets to exactly the consistency I want, stopping the scrape down a couple times. I think we're there. So I'm going to take it down. And then what you're really looking for is almost like a glue-like consistency. And I think we've just got it, where you can see that the icing isn't really going to go anywhere when I put it on the cookie. It's pretty thick and it's nice and glossy and beautiful. It's a beautiful white color. So we're going to keep some white, but the first thing I'm going to do is start pulling some out to make our different colors. So with my spatula, I'll just scoop a little bit out. You know, kind of looks like marshmallow fluff a little bit. Important thing to remember is it will dry out very quickly, which is great when it's on the cookie, not when it's in the bowl. So we're going to cover it with plastic wrap while we start doing our coloring. And it's always important to cover all the royal icing you're working with plastic wrap when you're not using it. So I'm using one of these gel food colorings, which I really love. They've got really great colors. I just take a toothpick, kind of stir it up and get a glop of it or so on my toothpick, and then run it through the icing, discard that, and then take a spatula and just start stirring. And if you're making one large batch of a single color, you can of course do this in the mixer and it'll be very easy, but I'm going to make a bunch of different colors. So I'm going to do this, and it's getting a good orange color, but not as dark as I want it yet. So all I'm going to do is get one more toothpick, fill it up. And if you want to combine 2 colors to make one color, easy to do. Same kind of process, just put the different colors in. And I'm going to stir it up, get it to almost where I want it there. I tend to find that when the colors dry on your cookie, they get a little darker anyway. So I think that's good. So I'm going to cover that up in a second. In the meantime, I'm going to get a little bit more out, start doing my second color. Next, I think I'm going to make some green and just kind of put that in there. It's pretty sticky, so you do want to be careful that you don't get it all over yourself. Cover it back up again, and then I will open up my green food coloring. Same exact process, just stir it up a little bit if it's new, and get some on your toothpick that you can then run through your royal icing. There's so many different colors to choose from too. I'm going to grab a little plastic spoon here I have since I didn't clean off my spatula, and just kind of whip it together. And if you want a really pale green, you can stick with that. I'm going to go with a little bit darker color, so same as before, I'll just add a little bit more. Now that I've colored all the icings I want, I'm going to put them in pastry bags to start decorating the cookies. This is a disposable pastry bag that is also easy to get at a lot of baking supply stores and stuff like that. But what I actually use, because I always have them around the house, are little plastic bags like this, because you can do almost the same exact thing and it's a little bit cheaper too. So I'm going to open it up, turn out these edges so that I don't totally get messy, and then kind of get it to that shape like the pastry bag is. Put it in my hand, hold around it, and kind of create an opening. You could also put this around a small cup and do it too. I'm taking some of the white icing that I have in here, and I'm just going to stick it down in there and use my left hand to kind of pull it off of the spatula. And then I might have to kind of reopen that again, pull a little bit more in, get it down in there, and pull back. Take a little bit more because I know I want to use a lot of white. And don't plan on keeping your hands too clean because you're going to get messy. Then I unfold the ends, kind of try and get it down, push the icing into that little same cone shape that I had with my pastry bag. Once I get it, I don't want to seal it because I don't want air bubbles in there. Once I get it to that cone shape like this, then I'm going to take some sharp scissors and cut the tiniest hole I can off the end, basically creating my pastry tip. And so you'll see if you twist it a little bit and get some pressure on there and squeeze as you go across, that's what the line of icing will look like on our cookies. So I'll put this one aside. You want to seal it. Sometimes people like to use rubber bands or little clips just to make sure it doesn't come out, but just kind of gently put it to the side. Now, if you're familiar with and comfortable using pastry tips and you want to really control the width of the line that you're piping, we can put these on the Ziploc bags just as well. So put the coupler base through the bag, and then I'm going to cut a little bit bigger hole because I need a little bit more to come through. I put on my pastry tip and then secure it just like you would with a regular pastry bag. And then I'm just going to flip over the ends and hold it just like I did with the other one and start to fill. So I'll do red icing for this bag. Again, it's going to get messy. And I'll put the red in, start to kind of pull it off with my hands so that it gets right down into the bag so we can get all ready for decorating. And now to the fun part. We're going to start decorating our cookies. So first I'll start with my flour, and I'm going to show you how to outline what would be our petals. And I always like to squirt a little bit of the icing out just to make sure we don't have any bubbles in there. So slowly I just kind of squeeze gently and guide my hand to follow the pattern of the flower. And it takes a little practice to get steady at this, but you're the one doing it, so however you want to is perfect. Just gonna kind of go around. The best thing is you can really let the shape of your cookie guide you as to how you want to decorate things. And you can do them uniform like this, or get a little crazier, a little more abstract. And you really don't have to put that much pressure on the bag for the icing to come out. And then I'm going to give a little yellow center. Put a little bit here just to make sure. You could leave it like this, and I'm going to set it aside and let it dry and then show you an even more advanced technique we can do to the rest of the cookie. In the meantime, while that dries, I'm going to take my gingerbread man and give him some eyes. And here I'm using my icing kind of as a glue because I'm going to take little red candies and gently place those on top of the icing, and then they will stick. You can also stick them on the dough before you bake the cookies if you know exactly where you want to keep them. And then I think he might want to get a little bit of a bow tie. So we're going to give him a red bow tie. And then just have fun with it. Maybe do some buttons. And again, it's great. If you have little candies, you can be using candies to do this too. And then maybe some little curly Q shoes. And you also, as much icing as you want to eat, you can put on these cookies. The other thing I really like to do is incorporate sprinkles. So I'm going to take a snowflake, and with my white icing, I'm going to go through and again, kind of just follow the lines of the cookie and be as creative as you want. Just draw lines going like this. And maybe some dots. I love to do the snowflakes because they're very symbolic of winter and they're also very easy to do. Maybe I'll do some lines down here. And then I take this kind of sanding sugar, and while the icing's still wet, I'm just going to sprinkle it over, and you can get pretty liberal with this because you want it to stick to the icing. And then just shake it a little bit and eventually shake off the excess. And what you're left with is a beautiful sparkly little snowflake that will look great on a platter. And then you can just kind of brush up your excess sanding sugar and put it to the side and back in your container. So let me check my flour and see. Now what you're trying to do with this icing is kind of create a wall so that we can fill it in. And I see that it still looks a little bit wet, so we're just going to give it a couple minutes until we see that our icing is dry. Okay, I think our cookie is ready to fill. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some of the original icing that we had, just a small amount, I don't need too much. Put it in this little bowl. What I'm trying to do is just kind of make it a little bit thinner so that it will fill the petals of our flower. So to do that, I'm going to add a little bit of water, very little. The cool thing about royal icing is that depending on the thickness you want it, once you've got your batch made, you can pretty much thin it or thicken it a little bit by either adding a little bit of water to thin it out or a little bit of extra confection sugar to make it thicker. So I'm trying to get it just to the point where I think it's going to flow, and I think I've got it. So that's pretty much what it looks like. It's looser and a little drippier and flowier than our original batch. And I already made some while I was waiting and put it back in a pastry bag. So once I have it all ready, I'm going to wait till the last second to cut open the hole because this is going to ooze. And I'll try and do it with my left hand. Woo, I did it. And then I'm just going to pull my cookie close. I'm just going to pipe just enough, less than I think I need, because I'm going to use a toothpick to actually drag the icing to fill the outline that I created for myself, because I don't want it to overflow. And then I'll just go around, and I can do it, a couple at a time. And then, like I said, just drag the icing until it reaches the edge. And I'm just going to kind of rotate around and do that. See if I can do all of them at once. Again, be careful because a little bit of this will ooze out as you put it down. And just gently, you don't want to break the wall that you created with the thicker icing. And you can always add more if you need it, but it's hard if you add too much. So just kind of pull them around, let it gather towards the edges. Might have to add a little bit more to those two. I'll just put in a touch more there and a touch more there. And then since my center is so small, I'm just going to take my original icing and fill that guy in with a little bit more yellow. And there you have our filled flower. So that's a really fun technique that you can do if you want to take it an extra step. In the meantime, I'm going to keep going with these snowflakes because they're easy to do and they're my favorite. And if you'd like more recipes or ideas on your smartphone, go to specialfork.com.